Okay team, here's part 2 of the news roundup. America is reliant on China for drugs, according to research that's just been done. And this should probably be a bit of a stark warning to Americans who think that they can take on China in a war. I'm not sure that China is reliant on you for very much, but you seem to be reliant on China for an awful lot of very important things. A new research poll was done that suggested fewer and fewer Ukrainians actually believe that they can win this war, but it is still a remarkable amount of Ukrainians who are polled who believe that they are winning against the Russians. And this is essentially down to the hard work of the internet warfare team in Kyiv, who, as we know, learned from the best. Ukrainian Diplomat has been detained in Seoul over bar brawl, and he is being recalled by Ukraine. Oh dear. South Korean law enforcement officers have detained a Ukrainian embassy employee for disorderly behaviour while intoxicated in a bar in the centre of Seoul. Can we send them back, all of them back? Is it just when they end up in South Korea? Asking for a friend. Israeli settlers have attacked Palestinians, steal land. There would be outrage and calls for sanctions if any other state did it. But because it's Israel, they just do, and no one seems to care. Yet another example of Western hypocrisy. And again, these are farmers who are not allowed to be armed. They have, and I put a video up a couple of days ago of a guy desperately trying to stop his sheep from being taken by not just armed farmers who'd come with massive trucks to steal his herd, but also had the army with them to protect them from the unarmed Palestinians that were trying to stop him from entering their land and steal that which keeps them alive. This guy was attacked while he attempted to harvest olives from one of his fields. These people are just evil. I don't know who they think they're chosen by, but it's certainly not any god that I recognise. US confidence in the military has fallen drastically, which does not surprise me at all, because, as we know, we now have the way of providing information at the time. People can really see what the military is up to. And I think it's quite clear, despite the kind of social media war, that the American equipment is not up to standard on a Russian battlefield. That is the reality. I got this message last night at about 1 a.m. I posted it. It was taken down for approximately 6 hours, and I've woken up this morning to it being reinstated. Now, this might not be true. As I've said, I get information from people on the ground in various countries, and maybe this is not true, but I'm going to share, or try and share, information that I receive from my African supporters and people who I support in Africa, because that should be what we are doing. But this is what I mean about the censorship. They've decided that it's okay for this post to be up, but they took it down for 6 hours. Anything could happen in those 6 hours, and we wouldn't be allowed to talk about it, you see. So the time lag is one of the biggest issues that I have with TikTok, and it's one of the things they play to the most, because it means that they can take stuff down they know is totally reasonable. And also what I do find is that it depends which moderator's on. So I'll have videos taken down, restored, taken down, and then restored, and then taken down again sometimes, because obviously there's some sort of battle going on between moderators. It's just become a bit of a joke. So please do come and check out Telegram. Democracy is free chat, or you can find me on YouTube, and there you can subscribe to my Patreon, buy me a coffee, which supports me and my young family, etc, etc. Thank you. There were explosions in Kyiv last night. This was reported by the Ukrainian edition of Strana. Details are not given. There's also been an air alert last night, so I think it was pretty noisy last night, but we will get into any news from Ukraine after this video. Washington is about to announce another provision of military assistance to Kyiv early next week, reported by Politico, and this is in light of America losing its AAA rating down to an AA+ rating, because it's starting to be fiscally unreliable. I watched a video yesterday that talked about how Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest banks in America, had invested 50 trillion in dodgy and fairly unstable deals, with only $500 billion down as collateral, which means that, you know, either most of those work, or there's going to be another banking crisis. I would recommend that people are very careful with their personal money. Donald Trump has been subpoenaed to federal court on August the 3rd and charged with 4 counts. This is reported by Reuters, citing court documents. 4 counts of conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to falsify witness statements, conspiracy against the rights of the American citizens, obstruction and attempted obstruction of proceedings. Now, what I've heard is that Biden has a 60 lawyer strong team working to try and pin stuff on Trump. But it's kind of been a bit of an own goal, because as he's come out with all this stuff about Trump, his own son is finding himself in very hot waters, as is the president himself. And it's looking likely that he's going to have to pardon his son, pardon himself, and probably invariably also pardon Donald Trump. So it's playing out. It's making people lose faith in the American justice system, which I think has been the real victim of all this, to be honest with you. I think the justice system has taken a real hit in popularity, understanding. And yeah, we have this kind of show going on, which is making Donald Trump more popular and Mr. Biden far less. And this I found hilarious. The United States of America threatens to withhold aid to Niger due to the military takeover. Niger military says they should keep their aid and give it to their millions of homeless people in the United States of America as charity begins at home. Boom! Go on, Niger! Brilliant. Just for contrast, this was by Slaviangrad. The US national debt is currently over $31 trillion, with an annual tax revenue of between 4.7 to 5 trillion and an annual GDP of 23.3 trillion. Russia, on the other hand, has a national debt of 340 billion, with an annual tax revenue of about 500 billion and a GDP of 1.8 trillion, or just shy of 4 trillion in 2022. There is a trend here, and it's not going the way of the USA. And maybe they should listen to Niger. I would think so. I think many Americans don't realise that they live in a kind of developing country now, if you can call it that, an undeveloped country perhaps, in that there isn't any development going on. There are increasing amounts of poor people with absolutely no safety net, no ability to look after themselves. Everyone's $400 away from bankruptcy, as explained by Kamala Harris herself. And, you know, that is what we call third world countries. That's what we call developing countries. These countries in Africa and in Asia that we, you know, by we I mean people who look like me, look down on, you know, these are places where some people are very rich and a lot of people are very poor. And America now fits into that bracket, as I would say does the UK. 6 new metro stations will open in Russia before the end of the year, 5 in Moscow and 1 in whatever that place is called. Definitely not seeing any evidence that Russia is running out of money, I have to say. This is the results of a night strike on an oil depot in Izmail, Odessa. And what's really interesting about this, I'll read just now. An oil depot in Izmail, Odessa region was attacked last night. Additionally, the port infrastructure was targeted. No casualties. On the previous day, there was information that 3 civilian cargo vessels entered the port of Izmail. The vessel with the registration number belongs to Greece. Turkish Georgian. The ships entered the Ukrainian port under the supervision of 4 NATO combat aircraft. They were travelling with their radio switched on, but the Russians have warned that any ships are targets, and this is a warning to them. According to Ukraine, of course, 11 Shaheeds were destroyed. Okay then.